The morning sun over Naval Amphibious Base Coronado cast long shadows across the immaculate parade grounds, the golden light reflecting off the gentle swells of San Diego Bay. The base hummed with its familiar rhythm, the distant bark of orders from training instructors, the rhythmic crunch of boots on gravel during physical training, and the ever-present sound of naval aviation screaming across the sky from nearby North Island. For the men and women stationed here, it was just another Tuesday. But for one woman walking through the administrative corridors of the Naval Special Warfare Command, it was a day she had avoided for nearly 7 years. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Sledge Williams had just finished a grueling morning with his SEAL team, and the previous night's operation had been a success. A high-value target captured in the mountains of eastern Afghanistan without a single American casualty. Now back on home soil, the team was enjoying the strange limbo that followed a deployment. Too much energy, nowhere to spend it, and the inevitable boredom that led them to gather in the main hall, swapping stories and waiting for their next set of orders. Marcus leaned against a concrete pillar, a cup of lukewarm coffee in his hand, watching his men with a mixture of pride and concern. They were young, wired, and loud. Exactly what they needed to be in the field, and exactly what made them stick out like sore thumbs in polite company. That was when he saw her. She walked through the security checkpoint with the ease of someone who had done it 1,000 times, and presenting a worn badge to the master-at-arms. She was maybe 40, with sharp features, dark hair pulled back in a no-nonsense ponytail, and eyes that seemed to scan everything at once. She wore faded jeans, a plain gray t-shirt, and a weathered brown leather flight jacket that had clearly seen decades of service. Patches had been removed from the jacket at some point, leaving only the faint outlines and ghost stitches where insignia once lived. She carried nothing but a small canvas bag slung over one shoulder. To anyone else, she looked like a civilian contractor, maybe engineering, maybe logistics. Someone who pushed paper and fixed computers. But Marcus noticed something else. The way she walked. The way her eyes automatically checked the angles, noted the positions of the security personnel, cataloged the exits. It was the walk of someone who had spent years in hostile territory. He nudged one of his petty officers. "See her?" The younger SEAL, a massive operator named Kowalski, who went by the call sign Tiny, squinted. "The janitor? What about her?" Marcus didn't answer. He just watched. The woman made her way toward the administrative offices, but her path took her through the main hall where the SEALs had gathered. As she passed, the conversations didn't stop, but some of the men glanced her way. She ignored them completely, her focus fixed on some destination deeper in the building. She moved with a purpose that had nothing to do with the testosterone-filled room she was traversing. That was when Admiral Jonathan Thorne appeared at the top of the staircase. Admiral Thorne was a legend in the special operations community, or at least, he was a legend to himself. A Mustang who had risen from the enlisted ranks, he had commanded at every level and now sat atop Naval Special Warfare Command. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a jaw that could cut glass and a head of perfectly styled silver hair. His uniform was immaculate, his medals arranged with geometric precision, and his shoes reflected the overhead lights like mirrors. He moved down the stairs with the deliberate pace of a man accustomed to rooms going silent when he entered. The SEALs in the hall straightened almost imperceptibly. Conversations dimmed. Thorne acknowledged them with a slight nod, but his attention was fixed on the woman in the flight jacket, who had stopped to let him pass. He didn't pass. He stopped directly in front of her, blocking her path. "Ma'am," he said, his voice carrying the practiced authority of 3 decades of command. "This is a restricted area. Civilians require an escort." The woman looked up at him. If she was intimidated, nothing in her face showed it. She held up her badge. "I have clearance. Just heading to personnel." Thorne glanced at the badge, a standard contractor credential, and something flickered across his face. Amusement. The kind of amusement a lion might feel watching a house cat wander into its enclosure. "Clearance," he repeated, drawing the word out. He looked past her at the assembled SEALs, making sure they were watching. They were. "You know what we do here, ma'am? This isn't a desk job. This is where we train warriors. Men who go into the darkest places on earth and bring hell with them." The woman said nothing. She simply waited. Thorne stepped closer, and he was nearly a foot taller than her, and he used every inch of that height now looming. Tell me something. In your line of work, whatever that is, do they give you a nickname, a call sign? He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We do that here. It's a tradition, a little handle that sums a person up. He looked at his men, inviting them to share the joke. So what do they call you? Paper pusher? Coffee lady? A few of the younger SEALs chuckled nervously. The older ones, Marcus among them, remained silent, watching the woman's face. The woman's expression didn't change. She reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a small leather wallet, the kind used to hold military ID. But instead of opening it, she held it closed, her thumb resting on the worn surface. I haven't used my call sign in a long time. Air Admiral, she said quietly. Didn't think anyone here would remember it. Thorne's smile widened. Try me. I make it my business to know everyone who matters in this community. The implication was clear. You don't matter. The woman looked past him then, her eyes finding the American flag hanging in the corner of the hall. For a moment, something passed across her face. Memory, loss, maybe grief. Then she looked back at Thorne, and when she spoke, her voice was calm and clear as a bell. Iron Widow. The name landed like a grenade in the middle of the room. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Marcus Williams's coffee cup slipped from his fingers and shattered on the floor. Tiny, the massive petty officer, took an involuntary step backward, his face going pale. In the corner, a senior chief who had been half asleep against the wall suddenly stood bolt upright, his eyes wide. Admiral Thorne's smile didn't exactly disappear. It froze, then slowly curdled into something else entirely. Confusion, disbelief, the first stirrings of something that might have been fear. Iron Widow, he repeated. The words came out strangled. That's not possible. The woman, Iron Widow, tilted her head slightly. Isn't it? A lieutenant commander named Reynolds pushed forward from the crowd. He was a Mustang, too, with 20 years of service in the scars to prove it. His face was ashen. Ma'am, he said, his voice hoarse. Ma'am, I need to ask you, are you Commander Sarah Chen? The woman looked at him, and for the first time, something like recognition flickered in her eyes. I haven't been Commander Chen for a long time, see, Lieutenant Commander, but yes, that was my name. The room erupted. Suddenly, every SEAL in the hall was on their feet, and the atmosphere had transformed completely. The casual lounging was gone, replaced by a kind of electric tension. Men who had been joking moments before now stood at something approaching attention, their faces a mixture of awe and disbelief. Reynolds took another step forward. Ma'am, I served with you in Ramadi, 2007. His voice cracked. You pulled my entire platoon out of a kill zone. 3 birds, no sleep, 50-foot ceilings. I was on the ground. I saw... He stopped, swallowed hard. They told us you were dead. The crash. They said no survivors. Sarah Chen, Iron Widow, reached out and put a hand on his arm. The gesture was gentle, almost maternal. I know what they told you, son. Hunter, it had to be that way for a while. But I'm not dead, just retired. Admiral Thorne hadn't moved. He stood frozen on the bottom step, his face cycling through colors like a failing traffic light. Red, purple, white. The amusement was long gone, replaced by something that looked almost like panic. Iron Widow. Every SEAL in that room knew the name, even the young ones. They knew it the way they knew the story of Mogadishu, the way they knew the names of Medal of Honor recipients, the way they knew their own unit's lineage. Iron Widow wasn't just a call sign, it was a legend. Sarah Chen had been Naval Aviator #1 in her class, the first woman to qualify in the F/A-18 Super Hornet, and then, when the rules changed, one of the first to fly in combat. But that wasn't where the legend came from. And the legend came from what happened after she was assigned to support special operations. In the early years of the global war on terror, when SEAL teams were operating in places that didn't officially exist, Sarah Chen became their guardian angel. She flew missions so low and so fast that the enemy called her aircraft the Black Ghost. She put bombs within meters of friendly positions, trusting the coordinates her brothers on the ground gave her. She stayed on station until her fuel needles were bumping empty, refusing to leave until every ground operator was safe. And then there was the night in 2009. The mission was supposed to be simple, A quick snatch and grab in a border town. But simple went wrong in the first 30 seconds. The SEAL team, 12 men from a unit that didn't officially exist, found themselves pinned in a courtyard with 100 fighters closing in. They called for support, but the nearest ground forces were hours away. The Air Force fast movers were all committed to a major operation elsewhere. They were alone, except for Iron Widow. She was supposed to be heading home after a long patrol, her fuel critically low. But she heard the call, calculated the math, and made a decision that should have gotten her killed. She turned toward the contact, ignoring her fuel warnings, ignoring her wingman's protests, ignoring every regulation in the book. What happened next became the stuff of whispered briefings and classified after-action reports. She arrived over the target with exactly 7 minutes of fuel remaining. Not enough to get home, not enough to do anything except die. But in those 7 minutes, when she rewrote the book on close air support, she put ordnance so close to the SEALs' position that they felt the heat through their body armor. She flew her aircraft like a possessed thing, pulling G-forces that should have torn the wings off. She stayed until the last fighter broke and ran, until the SEALs could move, until they were safe, and then she ran out of fuel. The SEALs on the ground heard her last transmission. "Good luck, boys. It's been an honor." Then her engines flamed out, and her aircraft fell silent. They searched for weeks. They found wreckage, but no body. The official report listed her as killed in action, body not recovered. The Navy named a ship after her. The SEALs she saved wore black bands on their uniforms for a year. Her picture hung in the Naval Academy, a reminder of sacrifice. But she wasn't dead. Now she stood in the main hall of Naval Special Warfare Command, wearing a faded flight jacket, facing the admiral who had just mocked her. "How?" Thorne managed. His voice had lost all its command presence. He sounded like a confused old man. Sarah Chen, Iron Widow, looked at him, and there was no anger in her eyes. No triumph, just a deep, weary patience. "I ejected at 500 feet, broke both legs, 3 ribs, shattered my left arm. Local farmers found me before the enemy did. Hid me for 3 months while I healed. Then they got word to a friendly village, and the village got word to a border patrol. And the border patrol," she shrugged. "It took 2 years to get home. By then, the Navy had moved on. I was declared dead. My records were sealed. It was easier to stay that way." "Easier?" Reynolds stared at her. "Ma'am, you're a hero. You're Iron Widow. We tell stories about you. I know what you tell," she said gently, "and I'm grateful. But I wasn't ready to come back. I needed time. Time to heal. Time to figure out who I was without a cockpit and a call sign." She touched the faded leather of her jacket. "I worked construction for a while. Odd jobs. Stayed off the grid. Eventually, I got a contractor gig. Engineering. Not flying. It paid the bills. It let me stay close to the water." "And now?" Marcus Williams asked. He had moved closer without realizing it, drawn by something he couldn't name. Sarah looked at him, and for the first time a small smile touched her lips. "Now I'm old enough that the past doesn't scare me anymore. I came to personnel to update my beneficiary information. Boring stuff. He didn't expect a welcoming committee." Admiral Thorne had found his voice again, though it was rough. This changes nothing about base protocols. You're still a civilian. You still need an escort." The room went dead silent. Sarah Chen turned to face him fully, and for the first time, something hard entered her eyes. It wasn't anger. It was something older, something forged in fire and fear, and the absolute certainty of death. It was the look of someone who had stared into the abyss and made the abyss blink first. "Admiral," she said quietly, "I don't need an escort. I've spent the last 7 years walking alone through places a lot more dangerous than this hallway. I've rebuilt myself from nothing. I've learned to live without a uniform, without a team, and without any of the things I thought made me who I was." She took a step toward him, and Thorne, Admiral Jonathan Thorne, commander of Naval Special Warfare, actually stepped back. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm not here to claim anything. I just came to update a form so that when I finally do die, my niece gets the life insurance payout she deserves.